Our lunatic ex-president Donald Trump calls for Joe Biden to resign, hoping that you won't remember what he was shamelessly bragging about less than 8 weeks ago. Afghanistan is the most shameful military result in U.S. history. It didn't have to be that way, Trump said after the flight of the Afghan president Ashraf Ghani. Well, wait till you hear the recording I have of him bragging less than 8 weeks ago, where he takes full responsibility for what has happened in Afghanistan. You won't believe your ears. Welcome to The Naked Truth on the USA Podcast channel, the program where I share the important notes of the day from newspapers, magazines, social networks, radio, and television across the U.S. and from a Hispanic point of view that impacts all Americans, not just some. I'm Juan Andres, also known as Senor USA. Likewise, Trump harshly criticized the fact that the U.S. withdrawing its troops from the country before evacuating the civilians who supported the U.S. forces was something to be criticized. Furthermore, Trump said, these people have left top-notch and highly sophisticated equipment. Who can believe so much incompetence, he added. The former president also called for the resignation of Biden, who defeated him in the last presidential election, not only because of shame for what he allowed to happen in Afghanistan, but also because of the tremendous increase in COVID-19 cases and the catastrophe on the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Now, wait a minute. You're blaming Biden for the increase in COVID cases when you were inoculated with the vaccine, and yet you haven't asked your 100 million followers to get vaccinated? Excuse me, I'm a little confused. I know that we don't see the world the same, but this is out and out lunacy. How could you blame? It's impossible. You, Mr. Trump, were the one that developed and helped speed up the process of the vaccine. And you're going around telling everybody what a great job you've done and that you're not getting enough credit. Then why, if you pushed to get the vaccine and you made sure that you got it, why are you telling 100 million Americans not to get it? Because that makes Biden look bad and it makes you look better. You can use it as an excuse. In other words, if a few Americans die, what difference does it make if they get COVID and die and they're older? They're older anyway. They're expendable. They're not paying taxes anymore. They're not contributing to society. I suppose that's what you imply without saying it. Why else would you not want 100 million Americans to get the vaccine that you push so hard to get happen? You know, the play in politics nowadays, now I know that some people believe that when they hear him say that there's pedophiles in the government and that, Mexicans crossing the border are like rattlesnakes. They'll bite you when you cuddle them next to the fireplace. That's the rhyme that he's going and telling everybody that's supposed to, let them know who we are as Hispanics, which is ridiculous. But what catastrophe at the border? If you folks have been keeping up with the news lately, American industry is going out of its mind because it needs more low-wage employees. They can't get enough of them because Trump sent them back. Now they need them and they don't have them. That hurts our economy. We're a capitalist country, for God's sakes. We're not a communist country. We need the employees to produce the products to sell to the world so we can maintain our place as the #1 economy in the world. And you take out the labor that you need? Well, and then blame the guy that's in office now, even though you caused it. You're the one was going around destroying families, people that were already established here, working in factories, producing products. Their children were born American. They were just waiting for something to happen so they could legalize their situation. And you had ICE go in there and tear up families, send supervisors, healthcare workers, hotel workers, get them out of the country. I don't want them here. And now those vacancies are there and there's no one to fill them. And industry is pulling their hairs out. But you're blaming Biden. Okay. Afghanistan's collapse comes shortly after the U.S. and NATO forces began the final phase of troop withdrawal in May. The United States is not the only country that was in Afghanistan to pull out. NATO had to agree. Hello? I know you're blaming President Biden, and we understand it was the lead country. It's important in NATO. But don't you think that if his allies didn't agree, that they would have changed or adjusted the date or whatever? Now keep in mind something too. Trump wanted to end this in May. Biden has the intentions of finalizing it in September. So May, June, July, August, September. Trump wanted to end it 5 months earlier. If you think there's a catastrophe now, what do you think would have happened if this would have happened 5 months earlier? But blame Biden. Afghanistan's collapse came shortly after U.S. and NATO forces began the final phase of troop withdrawal, handing over all military bases to Afghans. And NATO had to agree. Biden defended his decision completely. He wasn't like Trump going around blaming everybody because Mr. Perfect doesn't make mistakes. Like all other presidents, the buck stops here. I am responsible. Completely, he said, to withdraw from Afghanistan despite the chaos unleashed in Kabul. Although he acknowledged that the takeover of the Afghan capital by the Taliban occurred faster than anticipated. Faster than anticipated. Did anybody know? There were other countries there. Did any of the military in the other countries that were, Britain was there, I think Germany was there, there was a whole, Australians were there. Did anybody say, whoa, this is going too fast and the government's going to collapse in a couple of days because the Taliban is going to take over? They all agreed to leave on that timetable because they all together as a group figured that it was the appropriate time to do so. Everybody was tired of spending money. And by the way, Trump knew it too. Wait till I play you the tape. When I play you the tape of what he said about Afghanistan, further back than 5 months ago, your jaw is going to drop to the floor. You're going to go, no way. How could he say what he's saying now? I fully support my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there would never be a good time to withdraw U.S. troops, Biden said in a speech to the country. Hundreds of desperate Afghans have tried to board American planes trying to take off from the country's capital, and at least 2 armed people have been shot dead by U.S. forces, the Pentagon confirmed. As a consequence, the United States asked its citizens in Afghanistan to take refuge and not to go to Kabul airport right now. Now, I may be pronouncing it. Some people pronounce it Kabul, and I'm pronouncing it Kabul. But then a Hispanic, what do you know? I don't speak Afghan. So anyway, Donald Trump is crossing his fingers, though, hoping no one remembers he pushed for a full withdrawal weeks before Biden's deadline was ever to happen. Biden's 3 presidential predecessors aren't exactly in a position to criticize him, including Trump. Of course, understanding why they should keep their thoughts on the matter to themselves at this time requires self-awareness and control, something Donald Trump was not born with. Self-awareness and control. Hence his absurd call over the weekend for Biden to resign. Ridiculous. Weirdly, Trump noted in a statement less than 8 weeks ago about how he started the Afghanistan withdrawal process and claiming that Biden was powerless to stop it. Let's listen to Donald Trump and what he said less than 8 weeks ago.
I started the process. All the troops are coming back home. They couldn't stop the process. 21 years is enough, don't we think? 21 years. They couldn't stop the process. They wanted to, but it was very tough to stop the process when other things are at. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a shame. 21 years by a government that wouldn't last. The only way they last is if we're there. What are we going to say? We'll stay for another 21 years, then we'll stay for another 50. The whole thing is ridiculous. So we're bringing our troops back home.
Can you believe that? Donald Trump knew that the Afghan government was not strong enough, that their military was going to collapse. He knew the Taliban was going to take over. And yet, he was for a full withdrawal earlier than Biden, knowing full and well that the country was going to go into a total collapse. He knew it. Now, in the past, presidents get on the phone for the good of the country, and they share information because they love America. But when you love yourself more than anything else in the world, you don't give a damn about America. I mean, yeah, you talk the talk, but you don't act the act. Words are, with politicians, words are like toilet paper. They're worthless. You have to see what they do, not what they say. So he tells everybody he loves America and that he's doing this because he wants. If you love America, why the hell didn't you pick up the phone, or why the hell didn't you get on an airplane and say, Mr. President, we need to talk. This is what I know, and I'd like to share it with you because we want to protect this country, our image abroad, because we love it. Now, that would be out of character. It would be out of character. His character is attack. Everything it does is from a negative point of view. I don't think he knows what positive means. He's made his money negatively. He's acted negatively. He's treated Americans negatively. He's treated minorities negatively. He says everything bad about everybody. Have you ever heard him say something nice about the opposition? Even one time? Never. I've never heard him. And I doubt very much if you have. And if he did, you ask yourself, what did he do afterwards to contradict his own words? He even said that it was a great idea to get out of there as fast as possible. Or also when someone on his team decided to delete from his website, Donald Trump's website. That's what we do here at USA Podcast. We snoop around the internet. We read as many papers as we can, magazines. We're on top of everything we can get on social media, television, radio, as best as we can to consolidate it and present it to you in these half-hour programs, more or less. So you don't have to spend the countless hours that we have to invest to get you and encapsulate this in such a short period of time so you can get all the information. What did he delete from his website, ladies and gentlemen? Getting out of Afghanistan is a wonderful and positive thing to do. Yet he's saying the opposite now. He's chastising Biden. Back then when he posted this, for not getting out sooner. But now that he's got an opportunity, even though it's going to hurt the country and its image, attack him for it. When weeks ago, he was a bad guy because he didn't do it sooner. Now he's a bad guy because he did it too late. You know, sometimes politicians disgust me, and I understand. That's the way it is. But there are extremes. You know, there's the middle, and there are extremes to the left and to the right, and those extremes are messy, they're vulgar, they're dangerous. They're bad for the country. We need centrists running the country. Reasonable people. Whether they are conservative or whether they're liberal, we need centrists. Reasonable people. I'm a Democrat. I really voted like an independent because I can tell you right now that I didn't vote for every Democratic presidential nominee. I voted for a few Republicans. And I'm glad I did because I thought they were the best choice. Nowadays, who do you find that you can even vote for if you love this country? Look what's in Congress and oh my. Look, the Republican Party, whose members have been trashing Biden around the clock and going so far as to suggest he should be removed from office via the 25th Amendment, have similarly been in damage control mode. Man, they are removing stuff. They removed an entire page from their website bragging. That page was bragging about Trump's deal with the Taliban that committed Biden to withdraw 5,000 U.S. troops from Afghanistan, and that led to the fall of Kabul. Blaming him for a commitment that he made during his presidency to withdraw 5,000 U.S. troops from Afghanistan, which now is Biden's fault, but Trump is the one that agreed to it. Obviously, the situation isn't solely Joe Biden's fault. Rather, it's a 20-year scene in the making, started by a Republican guy who would prefer to be associated with his career as a Texas bush painter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use the word bush. A Texas painter, than with the deaths of thousands of Americans and two unending wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yes, Iraq and Afghanistan. Why? Well, keep in mind that the Iraq War was started by Bush, and the Afghanistan War was started by Bush. The first Iraq War was started by Bush Sr. The second Iraq War was started by Bush Jr. And the Afghanistan War was started by Bush Jr. Both Republican presidents that got us into war and cost countless lives of American young men, many of them white, that if they were alive today and having babies, maybe the white population of the United States wouldn't be in crisis and decreasing as fast as it has. You've sent a lot of young, virile, good American young men to die, and for questionable reasons. This program isn't going to get into those details because we're not talking about the Iraq wars, but one of these days I'll do a program. I'm going to shock you just the way that I surprised you on some of my other programs. But what is happening in Afghanistan is precisely what Biden said would not happen. So I think he boo-booed. He's a human being. He insisted that the Afghan government would be able to hold the line against the Taliban. He claimed that under no circumstances would we see people being lifted off the roof of an embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. Now, that hasn't happened. Nobody off the roof of the embassy, but off the floor of the airport. There are thousands of people trying to get out of there, just like now. I need to tell you, the last time what they're referring to here is the mess that they left in Vietnam, when not even one person that helped the American forces got out in time before the South Vietnamese had taken over the South. Not one. Or at least not enough of them. You could count them. And here we're getting out thousands of people. I think so far, by the time you're airing this program, the last I heard was 7,000 as of this date, and by the time we air this, it'll probably be up in the 25,000. Let me tell you, the only people that got out were the people that worked in the embassy, and that's why they had the helicopters on the roof of the embassy. Everybody else was left behind. They had to find other ways of getting out there. Getting out as fast as they could. And many of them died. Nothing's ever said about it. It's very, 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 very sad. But that's another show. The Biden administration had sworn it would protect Afghan nationals and other partners on the ground, but many have been left in a terrifying state of limbo. Now, we're going to pray that this turns out, well, it's already much better than the absolute catastrophic mess we left in Vietnam. Way better. We never got 7,000 people out in such a short period of time, ever. But at this time, we should come together as usual. The autocratic, capital attacking Republican Party is as always a self-serving party that puts their political interest over the nation's interest. Shame on them. Shame on them. We're going through a difficult period. Their president started the war. A Democrat did not start the Afghan war. Bush did. Okay? You think that now that we're trying to get out, at least help the image of the country that you say you love? But no. Now the excuses were very polarized. So what does that mean? We're supposed to go kill each other now because we're polarized? Grow up. Get with it. If you love your country, then there shouldn't be any polarization when it comes to emergencies. This is an emergency. Fight when everything's peaceful. Now we're in the middle of a crisis. Where's your backbone? Huh? Where is your Americanism? Where is your love of country? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice For all? Where did that go? Indivisible. We're partisan, so now we're dividing the country up. 100 million one way and 230 million the other way. That's indivisible? Shame on you. Shame on you. But that's why Juan Andres, also known as Senor USA, is here. I'm going to do the countless hours of informing myself, gathering and encapsulating all the newspapers, all the articles, and everything I can get my hands on, so it's easy for you to get to the bottom of things. You just don't have the time, and I know that. I know that. That's why I do these programs. I'm Juan Andres, also known as Senor USA on The Naked Truth. Thank you for listening, and until next time.